What's up, guys? We are 48 hours out from the Toronto Waterfront Marathon. It is crazy to be sitting down and sharing this final video before we head into the sub 3 hour attempt in 2 days. Super stoked. Today on this video, I just want to share with you a little bit about how race week has gone for me, what fueling is going to look like leading up to it, the race plan, fueling on that day, some of the things I'm going to be focusing on. So if you guys are interested in that, stay tuned because I'm going to share with you all of the plans that I have for the race coming up. If you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe. I've really appreciated the support throughout this whole prep build. It's been super awesome. It's been fun for me to make these videos. It helps keep me accountable, helps me reflect, share my thoughts. So it's been a pleasure to be able to create those. And for those of you who subscribed and supported, I really do appreciate that. But let's dive into it. So race week is always one of those weeks where I have mixed feelings. I historically don't always feel like super great on this week. I know people talk about the taper crazies and not feeling great during taper. I've kind of experienced that the last couple of races that I've done. This will be my fifth marathon. First marathon I did was a 4:05. Second marathon I did was a 3:29. Third marathon I did was a 3:16. Fourth marathon I did was recent this year in April. I did a 3:10. In 2 days, we're going to go for a sub 3 hour marathon, which has been a crazy ride to cut down those times over the last 4 years, and more specifically in the last year and a half, really making some big progress to put myself in a position to go for a sub 3 hour. So far this week, running has looked like Monday 6K easy. Tuesday was an 8x800 meter repeat where I was going to hold like a little bit faster than marathon pace. To be honest, that run did not feel as good as I was hoping for. Just like didn't get a great sleep the night before. It was windy out. Definitely didn't hit the paces that I was hoping for. I think in the past this would have really stressed me out. But what I've realized over the last couple of marathons, at least for me, that feeling this way is pretty normal for my body. So try not to get too caught up in that. Wednesday did 6K easy. Rest day on Thursday, which is nice, but also gives me some time to go a little crazy and spiral and think about the race, which is all part of the process. And then Friday, today we will do 6K easy, and then Saturday, shakeout run, 20 minutes, and then Sunday, we go for it. So training volume down a bit, and a majority of the volume is going to come obviously from the 42.2 in the marathon. I've tapered over the last kind of 3 weeks. My volume slowly came down from peak week being 110 to the following week being like 91 kilometers, then 70 kilometers. And then I think I'll probably hit around 70 something kilometers this week, with majority of that coming from the race. So that's kind of how the running's looking this week. With regards to fueling, this is a big part of the marathon, and something that I've practiced over the last 4 races that I've done, and then I practiced throughout my prep. But carb loading leading into the marathon, I think there's different schools of thought. From my understanding, starting 1 to 2 days out is probably the best, and looking to get between 4 to 6, I think, grams of carbs per pound of body weight. So typically for me, I start carb loading on the Friday. I'll probably aim to get around 600 grams of carbs that day. And then the day before the race, which would be Saturday, looking to get anywhere between 7 to even 800 grams of carbs, which is a lot of carbs, a lot of food to put in your body. It's definitely something that I've trained and practiced over the course of this training block, but also other training blocks. And typically when it comes to getting in carbs, what I like to use is, bagels, bread, pasta, rice. Those are like the core kind of 4 that I really like to use. I like to drink some of my carbs, so Gatorade. I will also use, this is the first time I'm really doing this for the marathon prep, is like drinking orange juice. There's actually a ton of carbs in orange juice. I'm going to try to get a little bit more of my carbs preloading into the marathon from liquid. Historically, I would get a lot of it from consuming food, and obviously that just makes you feel a little bit heavy, and I want to see if I try and get a little bit more from drink, if that helps, the heaviness that I feel in my stomach when trying to carb load. But those are the majority of things that I'll carb load off. I've been using Tailwind throughout this whole prep as a carb based drink, so I'll probably have a little bit of that as well. So it'll be a lot of eating. It is definitely an eating game, and it's important. So if you're preparing for a race, don't skip out on that. If you've never practiced a carb load, don't go crazy and try to consume 600 to 700 grams of carbs if you've never practiced that. But if you're heading into the race, you've never practiced carb load, I would suggest increasing your carb load at least a bit leading into the race, especially for anything over 90 minutes, which a marathon is definitely going to require that. So that's kind of what the carb loading is going to look like. The other one, a little bit of a hack, is Pop-Tarts. I'll consume some Pop-Tarts. It has 72 grams of carbs, I think, per pack. So those will be a fun one for me to enjoy. But that will be the carb loading. Race day, so we'll be heading into Toronto actually a day early, so I'll get there on Saturday. My girlfriend and I and my friends who are also running the race, we got a hotel room right near the start line, which honestly is probably the best thing that we did. Don't have to worry about traffic heading into the city, finding places to park. It's going to be chaos down there, so being able to just like step out of our hotel and like be in the race area is going to be glorious. So we'll head up there Saturday at some point. Goal leading into the marathon is to try not to be on my feet a ton. My last marathon, I literally just stayed at home, so it was very easy. When you go away and you're there with friends, it's easy to kind of walk around a bit more than you'd like, going to the expo, all that kind of stuff. But I really do want to try to limit my steps just to save my legs. But we'll get there Saturday. The carb load will be going on all day. Then we'll have dinner that night. Pasta is usually my pre-race meal, pasta and meatballs. I really enjoy that. Have done that the last 3 or 4 marathons, so probably stick with that. Typically like to try to get to bed as early as I can on the Saturday. Usually not sleeping very well heading into the race. I really try to make sure the week leading up to the race that I'm sleeping as best as I can. This week my sleep has been pretty good, so I'm happy about that, because the night before the race generally don't get a ton of sleep. But that'll be Saturday leading into the race, and then race day. Probably wake up. Start time of the race is 8 o'clock. I think we're going to be in our corrals about an hour before that. So I will probably wake up around 4:30, and immediately start eating. Typically my race day breakfast is 2 scoops of Tailwind, a bagel with peanut butter, honey, banana, coffee, usually like 2 cups of coffee. This is roughly 2.5 hours before the race. Probably a little bit of extra electrolytes. I like to use Element, so I'll probably take that as well. Typically looking to get like 100 to 125 to 150 grams of carbs like leading into that race. Always like to get out, earlier so we can consume the food, have some bowel movements, have it digest so it's not sitting in my stomach at the start of the race. Head over to the race, get into the corral. About 30 minutes out from the start of the race, 20-30 minutes out from the start of the race, I'll do a caffeinated gel, and that will be all like my pre-fueling. When it comes to the race plan, I haven't really talked to my coach specifically yet about it, but we will have a conversation. This is kind of my general thoughts. We'll see what he has to say. But the goal is to go anything under 3 hours. So 2:59:59, 2:59:50, whatever. I'm aiming to get under 3 hours, which is around a 4:15 per kilometer pace average across the whole race. So for me, historically, I have had a very hard time, pushing the pace at the end. A lot of people, obviously, the goal to run this perfect race is to negative split. And everyone has this idea of like, okay, the last 10K or 5K, I'm going to be able to start splitting down and really finish hard. Historically, that hasn't been how I've felt. So going into a lot of these races, I get a little bit nervous about like making that the focus. I think like even splitting is something that is a better focus for me. I've always felt good about like starting at race pace, goal race pace, and then just maintaining that across the course of the race. It just seems like what has worked better for me. But for the race, my thought is, starting off the race a little bit slower than race pace. I'm not going to try to come out super hot. I think that is a trap. Everyone is always going to feel good at the start of the race. Adrenaline, if it's cold, which is looking like the weather's going to be cool, you're excited, your legs are feeling great. I want to try to start a little slow. So probably come out anywhere around like 420 per kilometer pace for the first, 3 kilometers, somewhere in around 3 to 5 kilometers. And then more than likely just get right into like a 415 per kilometer pace, which is, goal marathon pace to go sub 3. Ideally holding that throughout the majority of the race is probably what I'm looking for. I used to really stress out a lot about like being off the splits. My goal for this race, and I tried to do this last race, was to not be so obsessed with each per kilometer split and look at it in bigger chunks. So I will be writing like my time-based focus, my time-based goals at particular markers, like my 5K time, my 10K time, my half marathon time, my 30K time. One, just to like focus on that as making sure that I'm staying on track for those paces, which is a little bit better of a way to not become so obsessed over each kilometer. And then the other thing is, in a city like Toronto, there's a lot of potential opportunity to lose the GPS signal. So trusting that GPS watch is not probably the best thing to do. So to have time splits for each particular kilometer marker is a lot more of an accurate way to look at what you're hitting. So ideally I come in at the halfway point around 129.20, 129.15, somewhere in and around that will really put me on pace to get under that sub 3 hour pace. And I think I'm going to try and just focus on holding that 415 per kilometer pace all the way until we get to around 35K, 37K, in and around that area where we're 10K or under. And at that point, if it's possible for me to start, pushing the pace a little bit and splitting down, then I will slowly start to make my way down to what is possible. I'm obviously not going to send it super hard and risk, blowing up that close to the end of the race. But if I have the ability to start splitting down from that 415 kilometer pace as we head into the finish, I will. If we get to that pace and that's not the case, at least I'm still on pace to just hold that 415 per kilometer pace all the way in through the end of the race to get me under that 3 hour mark. Fueling throughout the race is going to be super important, something I practice a ton. I focus on getting 90 grams of carbs an hour. I do majority of this through gels, so I use Precision gels. They have 30 grams of carbs. I will also take caffeine gels along the way. So every 20 minutes, I'll take a gel. Earlier on the race, I'll take a little bit more caffeine gels. Caffeine is a superpower to endurance performance. So being able to stack that a little bit earlier in the race, because it takes about 30 to 45 minutes to get to your system. So I'll be consuming a gel every 20 minutes. Throughout the whole race. I typically don't like bring any flask or liquid with me. I haven't done much of that in my training, haven't done that in my other races. I will stop at the aid stations, so I won't stop, but I'll grab a water and a Gatorade. More importantly, making sure that I'm just consuming the Gatorade at each aid station gives me a little bit more carbs, a little bit of electrolytes. I'll usually use the water to just like rinse my mouth and drink. I'll drink some, but I'll mostly use it to rinse my mouth, and just making sure that I'm getting the Gatorade in. I am gonna have some bottles that I'll make prior to the race to give to Kendra. And if I do see her later in the race and I can grab the bottle from her, I probably will, just to have it. I think like having something in my hand to rinse my mouth if I want to, or just to consume a little bit more carbs, I don't think is going to necessarily be a bad thing. So I will have that, but I'm not banking on seeing her or getting those from her. It'll almost be there as a little additional treat. I think mentally too, having something in my hand that almost can like distract me a little bit in those tough parts of the race is helpful. So yeah, that'll be the main goal for the fueling. I've always really just done gels for the most part, and it's worked well for me. So don't change or start anything new on race day. So gonna stick with that plan. And then yeah, ideally race goes well, splits go well, and we come across that line under 3 hours. I think like anything under 3 hours would be great. Like a 2:58 high, 2:58 mid is great. You know, I'm gonna be stoked no matter what I get under 3 hours. So that is the main goal. Like I said, my recent PR was 3:10, so this will be a big cut down, but I'm feeling good. I am really happy with how this marathon prep went. It was definitely challenging, the most volume I've ever done in a training block, definitely the fastest paces that I've pushed. So I feel good about putting myself in the opportunity to hit a PR. Race day is never guaranteed. The marathon doesn't owe us anything. That's been a line that I've heard and that's been sticking in my mind for a while now. Is like, the marathon doesn't owe us anything. Like, just because you've trained, you've had a great training block, you've done everything right, you've gotten to the start line, it does not mean that you've earned the right to finish or you've earned the right to PR. And that's something that I always remind myself in the race is like, I think a lot of times we step to that start line and we think, okay, I've made it through the training, I'm here, I earned the right to finish. And that is not the case. You have to stick to your race plan, you have to be smart, you have to fuel. All of those things need to be focused on in order to earn the right to finish the marathon. And I think that's where a lot of people, whether you're running your first marathon or you've run one before, it's like we just think that we earn the right to finish it because we've done it before or because we've done the training. And the marathon doesn't care, doesn't owe you anything. It's relentless, and I'm fully expecting that to be the case. And I think that's the reason why I love this distance. I love trying to push myself at this distance. Is it's hard, and a lot of things can happen across 42.2 kilometers, and you're going to have to navigate it. It's going to be some positives, there's going to be some negatives, there's going to be some ups, there's going to be some downs, but that is the joy of this distance. So remember that if you're heading into any race, but if you're heading into a marathon in this fall season, the marathon doesn't owe you anything. Earn the right to finish, stick to your plan, focus on fueling, keep yourself in a good mental state, and get a little bit of love from the marathon gods, and maybe we'll get a PR. But yeah, I just want to share that with you guys. Super stoked about the race. You know, it's been a fun prep. Like I said, I've had a blast making this series. So if you aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any episodes. I'll definitely do a race recap after the race. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Strava. Love to have you guys there. But that is all I got for today, guys. Hopefully on the back end of this video, I will be sharing with you a PR, sub 3 hours. We'll break it down. Hope you guys are getting after it. Hope you're pushing yourself. I hope you're digging deep. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.